Too much lifting and your running suffers. Too much endurance and your strength disappears. So, how do you actually build strength without sacrificing the engine? Today, I'm breaking down the balance every hybrid athlete dad needs to master. Welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete Dad Podcast. Super excited to have you here today. We're going to be talking about how to build strength without losing endurance. What I mean by that is people may think that, okay, the more I lift, the bigger I get, the slower I'm going to run. And then on the converse side, the farther I run, the longer I run, the smaller I'm going to get. And what I want to talk about in today's episode is specifically how to build strength without losing your running endurance. Now, before I get into today's episode, I like to go over anything that's going on in my life: fitness, nutrition, anything that I think that you may find interesting. So before we get into today's episode on how to build strength without losing endurance, this week, going back to a regular workout schedule this week, hopefully, I say that with a grain of salt. We got a text from our daycare saying that our daughter has a cough, she hadn't slept good, she doesn't have a fever, but her temperature is 100.1. So hopefully she'll be okay. I'm hoping that it's just allergies. I have it, my wife has it, just being the springtime this time of year. So hopefully back to a regular workout schedule this week. Wife was away for Sunday to Wednesday last week, so the workout schedule was a little wacky as I was watching my daughter. And usually when she's sleeping is when I work out, but obviously I wasn't going to be leaving the house while she's sleeping, so I had to change up my schedule a little bit. Had to change up how I was running, where I'd split up my workouts, half on the treadmill, half outside, just to save some time. So super excited to be getting back into a regular workout schedule. Definitely a little bit tricky getting up at 4:15 today to get to the gym. I get up 4:15 twice a week on Mondays, Thursdays, just because my workouts are a little bit longer. But I didn't get up last week at 4:15. I just got up at 4:50, which is my regular time. So definitely a little bit trickier today. Felt a little bit longer, but then running wise, felt great being outside. Mid 60s, a little bit of wind, so can't complain at all. So fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll be on a regular workout schedule this week. I want to do a 12-mile long run. At the end of this week, I have been doing 10-mile long runs about once every other week to once every third week, depending on what's going on. Just depending on if I have to change my workouts, depending on if I'm sick myself. But again, I like to do at least 2 of those runs per month, 10 miles, just to go out there and do them. I want to push it a little bit further. I want to get up to 12 miles this week and really just see how that feels running a half marathon the end of next month. So I just want to get up to 12 miles, see how I feel, see if I want to do any more of those 12-mile runs or just keep it back down to 10 miles. So fingers crossed that our daughter will be okay and everything. I won't get sick. My wife won't get sick. Everything will be back to normal this week. So to be determined, but hopeful right now that she will be okay and we can have a regular workout this week. But who knows what's going to happen. You never know. That's the awesome part about having a daughter. Keeps you up on your toes. Now today, when it comes more on the nutrition side of it, changed up my lunch a little bit. So I've been having a pretty standard lunch for quite a while now. So it's usually I'll put a chicken breast in the crock pot in the morning. Spam my wife will share that. So I'll typically have 8 ounces of chicken breast, shredded. I'll put that in a bowl. I'll have a cup of rice. I'll put spinach. I'll put a red pepper, dice it up. Throw that in there. Throw some Japanese barbecue sauce on it for some flavor. And then I'll have some carrots as well. And that's typically what my lunch looks like. I've just been having that for just a long time now and realizing I just want to try something different. So today I bought a big package of ground beef, had 6 ounces of ground beef. It was a little bit more. It was like 6 point, maybe a little under 6.5 ounces. It was like 6.38 ounces on the scale, so a little under 6.5 ounces. Had that, had a serving, I believe it was half a cup serving of frozen vegetables, and then a cup of rice, and that was absolutely delicious. I had some ground beef seasoning. That was very good, or dry beef, I believe, but nonetheless, very good. So enjoyed that lunch today. The meat is 85/15. I wish it was a little bit leaner. I wish I could have gotten it 90/10, 93/7, but the grocery store that I was buying it from only had 85/15. So we'll make do with it this week. But again, tasted phenomenal. So if you're looking for a little lunch idea, I highly recommend checking that out. And then I also had carrots as well. So actually, while I'm on the podcast, I could go, while I'm talking to you guys, looks like it ended up being 590 calories, 61 grams of carbs, 21 grams of fat, and 37 grams of protein. So that was definitely good. Definitely not as many calories as my usually get on, or more calories, less protein than when I have the chicken breast. Fat content up a little bit high today at 63 grams of fat, but I know that for dinner tonight, I'm going to be having grilled chicken on the grill. So take some, literally grilled chicken breast, put a little bit of olive oil each side, and then put some seasoning on it. So not a lot of fat there. I have rice, broccoli on that end as well. So not too worried. So the plan is if I have beef for lunch or I say ground beef. So if I have ground beef for lunch, that I have chicken for dinner, or conversely, if I know that I'm going to be having, say, hamburgers this week, or I'm going to be having steak or whatnot for dinner, then I want to have the chicken for lunch. If I'm going to be having tacos for dinner, same thing, want to be having chicken for lunch. That way I'm not having too much ground beef, as I don't want, at least for me, don't want to have that much fat in my food, especially when we're talking 85/15. Again, would prefer it to be a little bit leaner. If I really want to make myself suffer, I'll have ground turkey. That's 96.4. I have had that. Not a ton of flavor coming into that, but I do eat that on occasion. And then I think my grocery store sells like 99.1, which basically means like no fat at all to it. But again, I try to keep it when we're buying ground beef for taco night. Try to keep it 93/7, 90/10, depending on what the selection is available. And then I'm just trying to make smart choices throughout the day, knowing, okay, this is going to have a high fat content. Okay, this hamburger is going to have 20 grams of fat. Okay, like I'm going to make sure that I'm not having 120, 130, 140 grams of fat in a day. So I just like to be a little cognizant about how I plan my meals and what I'm eating, depending on what I'm really looking for in my macros. Without further ado, let's just hop into today's episode, which is, again, how to build strength without losing endurance. There's going to be times when maybe your strength gains hurt your endurance. So this could be if you're bulking. So take it for myself. So I'm 175 right now. But I wanted to go from 175 to say 225, 50 pounds. My guess would be that I would probably be a little bit slower running. Now, let's say on the flip side, I'm 175 and I want to drop down to 150, 155. I could probably run faster, but at the same time, maybe my strength isn't as good. So it's just always trying to balance the running aspect and balance the lifting aspect without losing anything at all between the two of them. And this matters for the hybrid dads, moms, whether you're a hybrid athlete and you're not even a parent, because we're so busy in our day-to-day schedules. Like, I don't have time just to go out and work out all day. I wish I did. That would obviously be awesome. That's not what I have available to me at the moment. So I have limited time. I have limited recovery as well. So I have to make sure that I'm making the best use of the time that I have and the best time that I have for my recovery. So again, I think the misconception people have is if I'm going to start running, I'm going to lose some of my strength. But on the flip side, that if you want to get stronger, you're not going to be as fast. I don't want to come here and go through this episode and just tell you that that's not that that's not true, but there's ways to help prevent it so you're not losing too much, whether running or lifting. And then hopefully you're not like myself, where sometimes you might find yourself being mediocre at both, which is what I'm trying to progress for. But you want to understand the trade off when it comes to running and lifting. There's something called the interference effect. And really, what the interference effect means is it's the phenomenon where performing concurrent resistance and endurance training can diminish gains in muscle strength and hypertrophy compared to training them separately. What that means is that, let's say if you're only lifting or you're only running, maybe by doing both of these, maybe your training can diminish a little bit of your running, it can diminish a little bit of your strength training. And I think that's where people get the idea that you either do one or the other. But obviously, this podcast is being a hybrid athlete, which is doing a combination of both. Which is why it's really important that when you have your workouts, that you have a program and set, because that matters more than just effort. What I mean by that is that when I'm going off and doing a 12-mile run, I'm doing an endurance run. It's telling my body that I should be lighter so I can go longer. Now, on the flip side, when I'm strength training, let's say I talked about it before, wanting to deadlift 400 pounds. That's the goal right now. I'm telling my body that we should be heavier because we only need to move this weight for a very short period of time. Speaking of that goal, not to get too sidetracked, but 400-pound deadlift, I believe I worked up to 375 for 2 or 3 reps. Was getting a little sketchy there on the back a little bit. So I ended up doing some hex bar deadlifts and then went back to the gym. Not that I don't go back to the gym, but went back to deadlifting today and did 315 for 7 reps, I believe, today. So working my way back up. But again, I'm trying to be cognizant that I have this goal, but do I push myself so far that I end up hurting myself, which is obviously not what I want to feel. And when I was deadlifting today, and again, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but was deadlifting today and pulled up and felt the pop in my shoulder. And I could think of was, did I tear my rotator cuff? Was it dislocating my shoulder? But luckily, it must have just been like an air bubble or something that popped. But it's definitely a little sketchy. When you lift up, and I mean, I have my headphones in, you can hear a pop, and it's like, okay, well, let's hope I'm good because I really need my arm to lift and definitely need my arm to run as well. Obviously, I'm just running with my legs, but if I want to move at a little bit faster pace, I don't want to be in pain. I need to make sure that my arm is okay. So figuring that out, but nonetheless, working my way up. The key here is having intentional separation of goals. It's not trying to lift as hard as you can every single day. It's not trying to be as fast as you can every single day. I find that most people struggle here because you're trying to improve at your lifting and you're trying to improve at your running, but you don't have a clear plan. So you go into the gym and you just lift as much as you can. Then you go on your runs and you try to run as fast as you can. So when you're first going out there and you're thinking like, okay, like how can I be this hybrid athlete? You just want to go as hard and as fast as possible. What I learned for me is over time is that I'd rather be a little bit stronger, but be a little bit, I don't want to say slower, but like slow in the sense that I'm not running 6-7 minute miles where I'm slimming down. I still want to look like I have mass on my body, look like I'm still working out, not that I'm just going out there and being a runner. Again, nothing wrong with that. But for me, it was realizing that I could continue to run longer and longer and longer, but is that going to be a benefit to me, what I'm looking to achieve, where I enjoy lifting more? No. So what I ended up doing was, okay, what's like the range that works for me where I still keep my endurance, but maybe I don't push myself so far. And that was running on average 30 miles a week, doing four easy runs, but one of those runs being a little bit longer, anywhere from 7 to 10 miles right now, along with doing one typical speed workout. Sometimes that can be sprints, sometimes that can just be today where I just felt like I was just going to go out and send it on my run, where next thing I know today I'm running like 15-minute miles, where usually I like to keep it about 9-ish minutes per mile. So, and then on the flip side, it's going to the gym. Okay, like what is the goal that I have in the gym? Well, for me right now, it's to do a lot of hypertrophy training to keep on my size. It's not necessarily strength as much. So when I look at it, when I'm doing strength, I'm doing 2 to 4 reps. When I'm doing more of my hypertrophy training, I want to be doing anywhere from 8 to 12 reps, build my muscle size, just look better all around. But this isn't to say that I don't want to go for strength. Like right now with my deadlifts, I'm going just pure strength on it. And then sometimes it might be okay when I'm benching 205 for 8, and I know like I can continue to go up, but I want to try to keep around 8 reps. So can I do 215 for 8? Can I do 210 for 8? Whatever that number may be. And then that's what I realized that works best for me. Doing this hypertrophy training, again, which is 8 to 12 reps per exercise. Sometimes if I'm doing purely strength, maybe I'm doing bicep curls, and I'm doing, let's say we're doing preacher curls, and I'm doing 95 pounds with it. And I can only do 3 or 4 reps. I'm just going for pure strength. And then maybe I drop it down and I'm doing 8 to 10 reps, and I'm doing more for my hypertrophy training. So that's what works best for me when it comes to lifting. And when it comes to running, I know like, okay, this is what works best for me. This is what works best with my schedule. And with that said, I want you to get into a smart training structure. And what I mean by that is, how are you going to split your lift days and how are you going to split your run days? For me, I really like to just do 5 lifting days, 5 running days. And I've talked about it before, but the way that it works out for me when it comes to lifting is on Mondays, I do back, I do triceps, I do shoulders. So I do that on Mondays and Thursdays, and I just switch up the exercises. On Tuesdays and Fridays, I do biceps and chest. And then on Wednesdays, I do legs, and then I'll sprinkle in abs throughout the workout. And same thing when it comes to running, pretty standard. Usually Mondays, I'll do my speed run unless I did deadlifts or something. My legs don't feel great. But typically, and then the easy run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off, longer easy run on Friday, and then easy run on Saturday to end off the week. So it's really up to you. You can do 3 and 3, you could do 2 and 2. What really, honestly, whatever works best for you, that's just what works best for me and how I schedule it. But the big thing is just creating that routine. I know, okay, every morning I'm getting up, say on average 4:50 in the morning, and on average every morning I'm running about 8 a.m. So I have it split up perfectly. Now, when it comes to combining and separating your running, it's really what works best for you. I find that for me, it works best if I have an hour or two in between them. I typically don't like running in the afternoon after I've had a full day of eating, so I typically like to separate my running and I like to separate my lifting. Ideally, if I felt great, I'd like to have like 8 to 10 hours in between, but my daughter's home and I don't want to run after she's gone down to sleep for the night. I want to be spending that time with my wife. So that works best for me. I found that last week when my daughter was home and I'd go to the gym and then I'd run on the treadmill, I just didn't enjoy it. I feel like I'd get the runs in, but I feel like they weren't that great of a run just from going like from heavy strength training to all of a sudden now I'm going out there and doing this running. Sometimes I might have these prioritization blocks where maybe during a 4 to 6 or 4 to 10 or 8 to 10, however you want to call it, where I'm focusing on more one than the other. When I'm doing my marathon, I'm focusing more on running. Right now, I'm focusing more on lifting. So I'm just being very consistent with it. So sometimes you might have a strength focus, which is what I have right now, with I'm just have my endurance maintenance where yes, I have this half marathon coming up, but I've been running these 10 miles once every other week, once every third week for quite a while now. So now I'm just maintaining my endurance. And speaking of that, not to harp on it, but my Garmin, I've been running 30 miles a week for quite a while now. Now it bumped me up to 40 miles a week is a suggestion. So I don't know why 30 miles a week is good for me right now. I'm not going to bump up to 40, maybe get around to 35, depending on how long these long runs take here and now and then. But my split again right now, focusing on strength with the endurance maintenance, but I'm not just like running a mile or two. I want to make sure like I'm still getting in good quality runs where I'm running at least 5 miles, 5 days per week. Again, with that long run sprinkled in, I'm not just doing a half-mile run. I'm making sure that I'm actually getting in my strength training and that I'm doing these endurance, but I'm just having the maintenance in it because that's not really my focus at the time. Again, that's what works best for me. You're going to have to figure out what works best for you. Do I want to focus more on strength? Do I want to focus more on endurance? Maybe I want to just do a mixture of both. Really going to depends on what works best for you at the end of the day. Now, one of the most important aspects when it comes to making sure that you can build strength without losing your endurance is fueling both systems. So, what I mean by both systems is running and lifting. Nutrition becomes more critical when you're chasing dual goals. You can't undereat and expect making progress in both running and lifting, as running and lifting demand calories and protein. As an example for myself, I wouldn't try to cut too hard with where I am because I'm focused more on my strength training. Conversely, I enjoy running and I wouldn't want to bulk up too much. I have episodes that you can check out when I go through everything when it comes to protein and calories. But on average, right now, my goal is about 480 grams of carbs, about 70 grams of fat, about a gram of protein per body weight. So we're looking at 175 grams of protein. Honestly, I'm typically about 200, 225 grams of protein per day, and then getting in about 31 to 3,200 calories, give or take. And I find that if I want to bulk, I would eat about 3,700 calories a day. If I want to lose weight, I would eat about 2,700 calories a day. So give or take 500 calories here or there. But I just make sure using MyFitnessPal that I'm getting in enough nutrition every single day. I can take a look at my Garmin watch. I can see how many calories I'm burning per day and make my meal choices off of that. Carbs are your fuel. Low carbs equal low endurance performance. A product I like to take before races is G1M Sport by Bare Performance Nutrition. It's a mixture of carbs and it's a mixture of electrolytes, but I really like it for the carb aspect of it. Don't fear carbs. I get the majority of my carbs that I have come from rice, they come from apples, they come from bananas and other fruits and vegetables. And I just make sure that I'm getting in enough carbs per day to, again, making sure that I can fuel my endurance performance and then getting in good quality carbs. I'm not just eating potato chips to eat potato chips. I mean, who doesn't like a good potato chip every now and then? But I want to make sure that I'm getting in good quality carbs. And again, fruits, veggies, rice. I'll have good quality sourdough bread, different things like that to make sure that I'm getting in enough carbs during the day. To make sure that your endurance doesn't stall your progress, especially when it comes to lifting, is your hydration and sleep. what's cool about the Garmin watch, and this isn't just a factor of the Garmin watch, but I can see how many milliliters of sweat I lost. So most 5 mile runs, I'm losing about 750 milliliters of sweat. I have 500 milliliters of electrolytes of sodium. I can put in a bottle, have that, and recuperate most of those electrolytes that I would have lost. But I know that I have to continue to drink a good quality amount of water per day, and I want to make sure that I get a good quality night's rest. For me, typically on average about 6.5 to 7.5 hours per night is what works best for me. But again, hydration and sleep are going to be your two best friends. You don't want to go out there and lift and run and not take in enough water and only get 4 to 5 hours of sleep per night. Over time, eventually, you're just going to be burned out, and your training when it comes to the gym, your training when it comes to running just isn't going to be as good. Now, when it comes to your mindset for dual progress, when it comes to running and lifting, is to stop chasing perfection. Not every week is going to be your best week. Not every week am I going to hit my max bench. Not every week am I going to hit my max squat, my max deadlift. Am I going to have my fastest run? But progressively over time, the more I lift, the stronger I'm going to get. The more I run, the faster I'm going to get. But I know that some weeks I'm just going to be off for whatever reason. Take last week where I'm out of my routine a little bit and I'm just trying to maintain that week. Maybe I'm sick. Maybe there's just who knows what is going on. But just knowing that like every single time you run doesn't have to be your fastest run. Every single time you go to the gym doesn't have to be the heaviest you have ever lifted before. Just stop chasing this perfection and focus more on consistency of getting into the gym on a consistent basis, of getting out there for your runs on a consistent basis, and measure your wins in context. What I mean by that is maybe I didn't hit my 400-pound deadlift this month, but maybe I had my fastest 5 mile time I have. Maybe just my mile time dropped and I had my fastest mile. It's like awesome. I maintain my weight. Again, maybe I'm benching 205 for 8. I maintain that, and I drop my mile from 8:30 to 8:15, or 8:15 to 7:30. Actually, that's quite a bit of time, but nonetheless, just making sure that you're measuring your wins in context. Think in long-term cycles. Progress in both lifting and running is possible, but it's just all about building that consistency. It's not going for one run here and there. It's not going to the gym here and there. It's just being very consistent with your workout schedule and your workout routine. Again, whether that's like someone like myself where I do 5 lifting days and I do 5 running days. Maybe you do 3 lifting days and 5 running days. Maybe you do 3 lifting days, 3 running days. Whatever that magic number might be for you, but it's just being consistent. Training as a dad, as a parent, can sometimes mean that there's flexibility that has to come up, and sometimes just maintaining where you're at is a win. And that is exactly what I went through last week. Again, as I described, as my wife being away and now I have a little bit less time in the gym. I don't have as much time to run. I'm not looking to push myself so fast when I'm running. I'm not looking to hit my PRs. I'm just looking to maintain what I have. So now this week, when I am fully focused in the gym, I can push myself hard. To recap today's episode, it's all about structure, prioritization, recovery, and eating well. And remember, hybrid success takes patience and cycles. Progress may be a little bit slower, but is more sustainable when you're balancing both. And that is the goal as a dad and hybrid athlete. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode on the Hybrid Athlete Dad Podcast. I hope you tune into next week's episode where I discuss how I adjust my training when my kid is sick or sleep is off.